We'll go ahead and get started. We're at 12:02. We may have some other attendees joining us, but appreciate all of our Pathway Scholars joining us today. As I shared, we're fortunate to have Diane, is it Roberson?
Roberson.
Roberson, from the Virginia Tech Office of Financial Aid. And she, to give you some of Diane's background, she's worked in financial aid for the last 10 years at two different universities, five of those here at Virginia Tech. Her role is to meet with new students and families and current students, advising them on how to finance their college education. Diane graduated from Cedarville University with a Bachelor of Liberal Arts degree. She has previously been a teacher. She likes gardening and traveling, which we've got some rain the last couple of days, so those of us who garden are in a better mood than we was a week ago. She has two daughters, one who's already graduated from college and the other who's still in school. Diane is an expert on all things FAFSA related and also has tips on engineering scholarships. So FAFSA, if you have not heard that word, which is an acronym, Diane will explain that, but you're going to hear that word quite a bit the next few years. So Diane's a great person to share that with. And so, Diane, I'll hand it off to you. And as is the case, if you do have questions, feel free to post those in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll go through those questions. Again, it's helpful if you post those questions so that everyone can see them. That will be useful so we know what you're asking and Diane can respond to those. So Diane, appreciate you joining us and it's all yours.
Okay, thank you, Perry. I'm delighted to be speaking with each of you today. I am working remotely from home in my office, so I wish I could meet you all, but we know what the times are. As first-generation students, you more than any other students need to know that you need to advocate for yourselves. I don't need to tell you that a college education is expensive, and you need to know at least the basics about financial aid so that hopefully you won't graduate with a huge amount of debt. You need to own it. You need to keep asking the people at the financial aid office, are there any other options, any other scholarships that I can do? And when you speak to different colleges, tell them you're a first-generation college student, and they will know how to help you. But before I get into the presentation, I want to say that the first thing you need to do is to get with your family members and have a meeting about college. I call it a lay your cards on the table meeting with your family members. Sit down with them and ask them, you know, have you been saving for my college? Do you have anything put aside? Are you going to be able to help me? Do any relatives, grandma, grandpa, have they been saving anything for me? And find out exactly what type, if any, support you're going to get from your family members. And we're going to go over some things today. I just want you to learn the basics so that when you start getting your award letters from maybe the 3 or 4 schools you applied to, you know how to read them and compare them, and you're smart about it. So I'm going to share the presentation here. All right. So what you need to know about financial aid. So the first thing is the FAFSA. That stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. Anyone that wants financial aid at a university needs to fill this out, and your parents will need to fill it out as well. It picks up some financial information, demographic information, how many people in your family, so on and so forth, and an important number comes out of this calculation that is what colleges use as an index to award you financial aid. So you need to know some basic terms about financial aid. So the ones we're going to go over today are cost of attendance, expected family contribution, what is financial need, the categories, types, and sources of financial aid, how to fill out the FAFSA, just some basic things. Special circumstances maybe that have happened in your family that aren't reflected on the FAFSA, and of course, scholarships. So, what is financial aid? Well, it's monetary assistance that the school organizes for you to help you pay for school. It can pay for tuition fees, room and board, books, and other expenses that you need while you're at school. And it consists of scholarships, grants, loans, and some work study. And we're going to go over what each of these mean. And if you could save your, you can submit your questions now, and Perry will let me know what they are at the end of the presentation, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. So if you're planning to go to college, not this fall, but fall of 2021, you need to complete a FAFSA well in advance of when the school is giving out their admissions decisions, so you can get an award letter with the admission decision. So for Virginia Tech, you need to, if you want an early decision, so there's different dates for different types of admission decisions. And the first one is early decision, and you will know in December if you were accepted. So you need to complete the FAFSA by December 1st if you want an award letter with your admission acceptance letter. Early decision is basically for people that want to go to Virginia Tech. They know they're going to Virginia Tech. They don't want to go anywhere else, and they will just die if they don't get in at Virginia Tech. And if you commit to early decision, then that's it. If you get an acceptance, you're definitely coming. And then early action, you need to complete the FAFSA by February 1st. But for regular decision and students that are transferring from somewhere else, and the deadline for all returning students is March 1st. I can't tell you how important it is if you're coming to Virginia Tech to finish your FAFSA by March 1st, because we have had students that have completed it on March 2nd. And we know we have all funds and all accounts if you get it done by March 1st. And some people have done it on March 2nd. I get a call from their dad and they say, hey, you know, my daughter lost $6,000 in financial aid, and we have to tell them, I'm sorry, she didn't finish her FAFSA by the deadline. And the family is not too happy about it. But each school has their own deadline for the FAFSA. And if you're filling out the FAFSA to go to school in fall of 2021, it uses 2019 tax year information. So federal student aid is where you need to go to fill out the FAFSA. This is their website. And you'll see that it says log in or create account. So before you can fill out the FAFSA, you have to create what is called an FSA ID, or Federal Student Aid ID. So for create account, you go in there, you need to set up a digital signature number, and your parents need to set one up because both of you have to sign the FAFSA. And then once that's completed, and it can take up to 3 days, then you can fill out the FAFSA. So don't wait until February 28th to do your FSA ID, because it may not go through for 3 days, and then you won't be able to do your FAFSA. So I just suggest you do it early. You can do it today. And then the FAFSA for next fall opens in October. So this is part of that first page of the website. I just scrolled down and it says start planning early. So they have some things that you can look at now and enter some preliminary numbers to help you plan for college. Then you can choose to fill out the FAFSA form. And then there's an easy toolkit where you can plug in the aid each school is offering to compare it. And then there's a lot of different things on here. And if you get out student loans, they're going to be on this website as well. So the Department of Education has made it really easy for one-stop shopping. So if you go to school in Virginia, all higher education institutions are on what's called a SCHEV website, Higher Education of Virginia. And it lists all the universities and the deadline. And if you look at the orange arrow at the bottom, Virginia Tech, which actually stands for Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University, has a school code. And you have to put our school code on the FAFSA for us to get it. And it's March 1st. And it's been March 1st for years. We don't want to change it around so students forget. And then some schools have a scholarship application, and we do. It's called Scholarship Central, and the deadline for applying for all scholarships across campus is January 22nd. So that's another very important date. Who is my parent for the FAFSA? You would think this would be an easy question, but it is not. And if you don't have this down right, it's going to throw your FAFSA off completely. So only someone who is your parent can fill out the FAFSA. If you're living with your grandparents, they cannot fill out the parent portion of the FAFSA. So I just wanted to take a minute and go over this and then tell you a little story about how this went wrong for one of the students that works in our office. So if we start on the left, are your parents married to each other? So if they are, you put their information on the FAFSA. You put their earning information on the FAFSA, their tax information. If your parents are not married to each other, do they live together in your house? So this is if your parents never got married, or if they got married and got divorced, or if they're separated, but they live in the same house. Then you have to report information for both parents. Okay, so the third one is if your parents don't live together, either they're separated or divorced, you have to pick a parent to put on the FAFSA. So you have to say, did I live with one parent more than the other during the past 12 months before I'm filling out the FAFSA? And if you lived more with, let's say, your mom, then you would report the information about your mom. You do not report the information about the parent that does not live with you. And then if you, maybe you have a custody agreement where you live exactly 6 months with one parent and exactly 6 months with the other parent to the day, only then do you go into the fourth thing, and you have to think, which parent provided me more financial support over the past 12 months? And you can ask questions like, who paid for my health insurance? Who's paying for the house I live in? Who bought my clothes? Things like that. And whatever parent that is, if you're exactly living with each one 6 months out of the year, that's the one you put on the FAFSA. Now, if the parent you live with or has provided you more support with over the last 12 months has remarried, then you also report your step-parent's income on the FAFSA. If they've not remarried, you just put the income of the parent you're living with. So who is not my parent? So if you are living with a parent and they got remarried and your step-parent never adopted you, but your first parent passed away, they're not your parent in a legal sense or a biological sense, so you wouldn't put a widowed step-parent on there. You never put grandparents, foster parents, legal guardians. Maybe you live with your aunt and uncle. You do not put them on the FAFSA because they're not your parent. Older brothers or sisters, maybe you live with aunts or uncles. You do not put them on the FAFSA. So now I want to tell you a little story about what happened in our office. So we have student workers in our office. They use their federal work study money to work for us, and we really appreciate them. And I was doing a training with this girl that was a senior, and I was going over who is my parent. And all of a sudden she goes, oh no, I've been putting my mom and my dad's income on the FAFSA the whole time I've been at Virginia Tech, and they're divorced. And so her father, who didn't live in the household, she had been putting his income, driving up the expected family contribution on the FAFSA more than it should have been And now finally in her senior year, she realizes that she's been doing it wrong and she possibly could have been eligible for more aid. So it's just very important that you know who is your parent and who to put on the FAFSA, because the definition for the FAFSA is different from the IRS definition and any other definition you can think of. All right, let's move on to cost of attendance. The best way I can describe cost of attendance is if you showed up for college and you didn't have a penny in your pocket, how much would it cost you for everything for the 9 months you're going to live on campus? How much would it cost you? So this includes things that you're going to have a direct cost through the university. They're going to bill you for this. So this would be tuition fees, room and board. If you're living in the dorm, that's your bill. But we also have to take into account that you're going to spend money on other things. So maybe you want to go home 4 or 5 times during the year and you live in Virginia Beach. That's going to cost money. So we have a category called transportation. And then we have personal expenses. So you're going to need to buy shampoo and conditioner, get your hair cut. You're going to need to buy a new pair of jeans. You're going to have different needs. These things are not on the bill. And you're also going to have to pay for books and supplies. They're not on the bill. You have to pay that out of pocket. So when we add all these costs together, the direct costs and the indirect costs, that equals the estimated cost of attendance for 1 year. So when you get financial aid, it cannot go above this figure. So let's say you work really hard and you get so many scholarships that they actually go over the cost of attendance at a school. We can't accept all those scholarships. We can only accept the scholarships up to the cost of attendance. And the same thing for loans. You can only get scholarships and loans up to your cost of attendance. So costs vary widely from college to college. So for this school year, Harvard is $72,000. In-state for Virginia Tech is $28,440. And then I just picked a local community college. That's $14,600. But usually when you go to a community college, you live at home. So basically you're just paying for tuition and fees, and that would be $5,400. So every school has a different cost of attendance. So when you get your financial aid offers, you may say, oh, I got $5,000 from Harvard and I got $5,000 from Virginia Tech. Well, it's really not the same amount of money when you compare it to the cost of attendance. So that's one thing you want to look at. Yeah, you got $5,000, but how much does that leave you to pay after that? And when you fill out the FAFSA, a very important number comes out of that, and it's called the expected family contribution. This is so very important. And it goes through a complicated formula, and it uses the adjusted gross income from you and your parents. And it's the amount the federal government thinks your family can pay each year for you to go to college. Now, a lot of families think maybe this number is unrealistic. Some parents can afford that contribution, some can't. But you have to say it's a fair calculation. It's done the same way on everyone, and it takes a lot into its calculation. And your expected family contribution is the same no matter if you go to a very expensive school or Virginia Tech or a community college. And the school will use this expected family contribution as an index to award you financial aid. So that's why it's so important to fill out the FAFSA correctly. So now we've learned 2 things: the cost of attendance for the school and the number that comes out of the FAFSA, the expected family contribution. When you subtract that, you get your financial need. And this is where we get the saying, we can award need-based aid. How much need-based aid can you get? So let's look at an example. So the cost of attendance for in-state, an undergraduate student, which just means they're getting their bachelor's degree, they live on campus. So if we add up tuition fees, room and board, and all the other expenses, it comes to $28,440. And if we took the direct cost of tuition fees, room and board, minus the scholarship and grants, that equals the net cost. What are you really going to pay? And your expected family contribution is in the net cost, but you can use loans, payment plan, work study to help pay for your net cost. So let's look into this a little bit further. If we take the top three figures where the orange arrows are pointing and we add them together, look down on the left, the direct costs are $23,990 for the year. And then on the right, I took the books and supplies, personal transportation, and loan fees, and that equals $4,450. So you're going to be billed for the direct costs, but you're not going to be billed for the indirect costs. And you may not spend that much money. You may just need to spend money on books and supplies because you're bringing everything else with you from home. But you do need at least the financial aid for your direct costs. This is an example of an award letter. It shows the direct costs, the indirect costs, and then there's a section for grants and scholarships. So this particular student got a state grant, the Virginia Guaranteed Assistance Program, which is VGAP, a federal supplemental educational opportunity grant, a Virginia Tech grant, and a federal Pell Grant. And when you add all those up, the grants and scholarships, it equals the $14,370 a year. And when you subtract that from the direct costs that are up here, you're left to pay the net costs. This is what's going to have to come out of your pocket, $8,440 for a year. And of course, you divide that by 2 because you pay for fall and spring semesters separately. So how are you going to cover the $8,440 a year? So there's different types of financial aid. Scholarships and grants are gift aid. You do not have to pay them back. That's what you want. But then there's self-help aid, which are loans, could be from the federal government, could be from your personal bank, and you could work at the school if you're awarded work study money. And let's look at a couple more things. So scholarships are usually awarded on the basis of merit, skill, or some unique criteria. And you usually need to apply somehow. Grants are also money that grants are money that doesn't have to be paid back, and they're usually awarded on the basis of financial need. So now we're back to that EFC, your expected family contribution. If that shows you have need, then you may be eligible for some grants. So options to pay. So you may be offered something called federal work study, which you'd have to get a job on campus, and this $2,000 is the maximum you could earn during the year. This doesn't come right off your bill, but you can work and get paid, and you get a paycheck every 2 weeks. Well, that's at Virginia Tech, up until you use the $2,000. Every first-year student is offered federal loans, and some may be subsidized, some may be unsubsidized. It just means the subsidized loan means you're not charged the interest while you're in school, and the unsubsidized means you are. The subsidized loan is a need-based loan, but if you add the two numbers up, you get $5,500. So even if your parents make $1 million a year, everybody is offered $5,500 in a federal loan. And they're offered to you, you can take them or decline them. Other options to pay for the bill are, we have a budget tuition plan, so you can take that net cost if you sign up for the budget tuition plan and divide that out over 4 months with 4 equal monthly payments. A lot of people like this. Your parents could apply for a Parent Plus loan through the federal government. This is a loan that they would apply for. It's in their name, and they would have to pay it back. Maybe your parents have military benefits that they could transfer to you. You'll need to speak to the Office of Veteran Affairs to see how that works. And then the non-federal private educational loan is just like from any lender across the whole United States, maybe the bank where you have your money, you could ask for a private educational loan. And of course, whatever cash you have on hand or what you've saved up over the summer, you can pay for that way as well. So what you want to do is maximize your grant and scholarship opportunity. So the most important thing is to complete the FAFSA and any other applications on time, like our Scholarship Central application for Virginia Tech. Other colleges may have their own scholarship venue. Secondly, when you apply for scholarships, they are going to be looking at you, and they may look up your Facebook or Instagram accounts. You don't want anything on there that you do not want someone that wants to give you a scholarship. You don't want them to see. So start cleaning that up. Maybe start a new one, a professional one. Also, you want your email to be professional. You don't want something that doesn't seem serious. We've seen a lot of emails. Your name is maybe one of the best ones, but funny things or juvenile things, they don't go over well with the scholarship committee. You want to appear as a serious, smart student, and you want what they see to be what they're looking for. And then you need to ask around. Churches give scholarships. Your parents' employer may have something where if some of them have matching grant programs, civic groups, maybe your mom or dad's involved in the garden club or the Rotary or the Lions Club. They may have competitive essay grants, or they just may want to give it out to somebody they know. If it's a local scholarship, it's going to be less competitive because the pool is smaller. And then whatever schools you pick that you're going to apply to, check their financial aid website and see how you can apply for scholarships at their school. Believe it or not, our Scholarship Central opens in August. That's even over a year before you're going to be going to college, and then it closes in January. And a lot of scholarships on the internet close in December. So you really need to start looking at the beginning of your senior year. So this is our financial aid website, and you can put in the keyword scholarships or Scholarship Central, and if you look at the red arrow, you just click on there and it takes you in, and there's even a user's guide if you don't understand how to fill it out, and you can always call us or email us, and we'd be happy to give you any assistance that you need. You know, as first-generation college students, you need to keep asking. If somebody says no, you need to say, are there any other options? Is there anything else I could do or explore? You have to advocate for yourself, and you need to just keep asking and keep pushing. So the best part, finding scholarships. Here are some that we recommend. These are scholarship search engines or places you can register with. The main thing is these are all free. Never pay any money to any scholarship organization. If you hear the words, we guarantee you will get a big scholarship, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. So if you look starting on the left, The U.S. Department of Labor organizes a lot of scholarships together, and it's called careeronestop.org. FastWeb on the top right is one I recommend highest of all. You register with them, put in some basic demographic information, what you want your major to be, and you can have them send you a list like once a week or even every day of scholarships that you would be eligible for where the deadline hasn't passed. And then below that, College Board has a lot of scholarships on their website, and then down at the very bottom, Scholarship Monkey. So here are 4 places to get you started. But one of the main things is that you all want to get into engineering, and that is a STEM major. STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And there are so many scholarships out there for you, and there's big ones, over $10,000 a year. So let's take a look here. You may not know what type of engineering you want to go into, but after your first semester at Virginia Tech, you need to find a specialty. So this one down here that's on the American Society for Engineering Education is one of the best ones. It's DODSTEM.US. They will pay for you to go to 4 years of college if you agree to work for the Department of Defense for 3 years after you graduate as a civilian. You don't have to sign up for the military, you just be working as a normal person. It's a great deal, and we do have students at Virginia Tech who get this. Maybe you want to go into aerospace engineering. Look that up. And let's see here. You can see there's some for $10,000 a year, $5,000 a year. I would definitely apply for any scholarship that is $10,000 a year or more. Then here's one, mechanical engineers. And you can see the deadlines. So you just might want to make a list of all the scholarships you want to apply to, their deadlines, and then just work through it. If you spend an hour every weekend applying for scholarships, I think it'd be worth your time. And of course, the big 3 scholarships, the Coca-Cola Scholarship, that's at least $10,000 a year. The Ronald Reagan General Electric Scholarship. The Ron Brown Scholarship is for African Americans, but it's over $10,000 a year. And the Bill Gates Millennium Scholarship, that pays for everything. So you definitely want to apply for all the big ones. Something new we started at Virginia Tech last year is called Raise Me. With Raise Me, you sign up, and if your high school is a low-income high school, you may be eligible. And what this scholarship does is you can gain micro scholarships from little things that happen during the year. Maybe you get an A, you get $50. Maybe you do some community service, you get $100. Maybe you tutor at the elementary school, you get $80. It all adds up, and you can start this when you are in 9th grade. So you can do this from 9th grade until December 1st of your senior year. Again, your high school has to be eligible. When you come for Virginia Tech, you will get this Raise Me scholarship. So you're thinking, you know, my parents made their regular salaries in 2019, which is what the FAFSA, if you're going to school a year from now, bases the numbers on. But with the COVID pandemic, you know, my dad couldn't work for 4 months because he owns his restaurant, or something happened since 2019. Maybe your parents got divorced and the major breadwinner moved out of the house. Maybe you've had unusual medical expenses. Anything that happens to your family finances, we want to talk to you about it, because 2019 may not paint a picture of your family's ability to pay. So we can do a professional judgment if we think it would be beneficial to to use the numbers if it would allow you to get any need-based aid. Sometimes it's beneficial, sometimes it's not. So you have to fill out the FAFSA first. You call the financial aid office. We require some written documentation and some explanation. We may ask for some additional information, and then we make a decision. We may decide to replace the 2019 income with 2020 income if it would be beneficial to you. But we know things happen. We want you to come and talk to us about it. So if you have any questions, here's our website address, our email address, and our phone number. And because of COVID, we have a lot of people in the office working from home. So it might be best if you use email and then just give us a couple days to get back to you. And some of the things I talked to you about today are on these websites, studentaid.gov. That's where you can create your FSA ID, fill out the FAFSA, and any questions you have about federal student aid. And then chev.edu is the State Council of Higher Education that has all the dates for the Virginia colleges that they need the FAFSA by. So now, Perry, I don't know if you've been collecting questions, but I would be glad to hear some questions from our audience and answer them if I can.
Yes, Diane, we did collect questions, so I'll go through them just in the order we received them. And again, if you have further questions, feel free to post those. We have a question that says, so you said a grandparent isn't allowed to fill out the FAFSA for you, but if your parents are deceased or in jail or prison, who fills it out in that case?
That's an important question. So if you live with your grandparents because your parents are deceased, you are considered an orphan, and there's a place on the FAFSA where you can check, I am an orphan. You do not put your grandparents on there, and then you are considered an independent student, and we only go by the financial, the income that you made back in 2019. Now, if one of your parents is incarcerated, but they normally lived with you before they were incarcerated, you do have to put them on the FAFSA. If both parents are incarcerated, maybe they're in for a long time, or maybe you just live with one parent and they've been incarcerated, you have to put them on the FAFSA. But if they've been in there for a long time, then you may want to talk to your financial aid counselor about it, because we can do a dependency appeal.
Okay. Our next question is, could the COA go up, cost of attendance go up during the year? And if it does, and say I got more money than the COA, will that take extra money to be able to cover this, the COA that got higher? And let me see.
It's a good question. So the cost of attendance is just generic for like every student. But let's say you're a sophomore and you wanted to live off campus and your apartment costs more than the dorm. We can do a cost of attendance appeal. You would send us a copy of your lease and we could raise it if need be, and you could get more aid up to that amount. But generally your cost of attendance, the school can't raise the price for you, but you may have maybe some lab fees or some special things you're doing that may cost more than that, and we can raise your cost of attendance and your aid for that as well.
Okay. So in a situation, if someone got more scholarship money than their COA, where does the extra money go?
We have to refuse it. So if you got the Coca-Cola scholarship and the General Electric scholarship, you had $30,000 worth of scholarships, we'd have to say to one of those scholarships, we can't take this $2,000 because it puts us over the limit.
Okay. And then in a situation where, let's say, half of the cost of attendance was covered by scholarships, would financial aid be much less compared to if they didn't have any scholarships to begin with, or would it be the same?
Okay, so this is how scholarships and financial aid come together. So I think you're probably talking about outside scholarships and scholarships from Virginia Tech. So when you get your award letter with your admissions decision, we figure out your financial aid. Now, if you get an outside scholarship for maybe $10,000, the financial aid you're offered, we could lower it. We do offer loans, so we would lower the loans first before any grants or scholarships. Yeah, I think that's all the detail I want to go in on that one.
Okay. What is the difference between federal loans and commercial or bank loans?
That's a good question. So you as a student are offered federal loans. You don't need a cosigner. It's just because you're in college. So they have an interest rate. Let me pull this out here. Right now, the interest rate on a federal student loan is 2.75%, which is pretty good. So if you went to your bank and you wanted a loan in your name, you'd need a cosigner because you don't have a job. So people usually use a relative. So if you use your parent, the interest rate would be based on their credit score. So most often, private loans have a higher interest rate, but if your parents have excellent credit, it could be a lower interest rate. So that's the big difference, the interest rate. And another one is the terms. The federal loans are in deferment, which means you don't have to start paying on them until after you graduate or you attend less than half time. When you get an educational loan with another lender, their terms may be different. A lot of them do have deferment, but some of them you have to start paying back right away. So interest rate and terms are what you want to look at to compare the two.
Okay. Is it harder to get a financial aid packet when you are homeschooled?
No, it is not. When you are homeschooled, you need to have your parent make up a transcript and then send it to the school. And as long as you follow the requirements of your state, you have a diploma like everyone else, and we recognize that just like going to a regular high school. So there's no problem with homeschooling, and we give you a financial aid package like everyone else.
Okay. If you have a disease which requires medical attention, but you have good insurance, would you still be eligible for unusual expenses?
Good question. So insurance covers most of everything, but not all. So it would depend on how much you had to pay out of pocket. So it doesn't matter what your insurance covers, it matters what your family had to pay, and we would look at the receipts of that. Now, a certain amount of medical is included when they figure out the expected family contribution, and if it's over that amount, we can deduct it. We can deduct it from the FAFSA information. So it just depends how much that money is that you've paid out of pocket.
Okay. If a student goes to school out of state, but has lived and attended Virginia for a year, could they be considered in-state then, or would they be considered out of state for all 4 years?
Okay, so residency requirements are pretty strict. So if you've lived, let's say, in New York, but you came to Virginia for your senior year and graduated from a Virginia high school, but your family didn't really live there, maybe you went to live with an aunt and uncle for your final year, that would not grant you in-state residency. But if you lived maybe in West Virginia, right on the border, and one of your parents has always worked in Virginia and paid Virginia taxes for like 30 years, you could appeal and possibly get in-state tuition.
Okay. If you have a 529 plan, does it reduce your approved financial aid?
So this is the good news. A 529 plan is a savings account your parent or another relative creates with the state. It gets deducted from their paycheck before taxes, and then they could save it and use it to pay for school. So that does not count as financial aid. That just, you use it to pay the bill. It doesn't affect what aid you're offered at all. Also, military benefits, they don't count toward financial aid. The GI benefits don't count toward financial aid.
Okay. Question on when to start applying for scholarships. Is this something where scholarships can be applied for prior to a senior year, or when is the best time to begin applying?
So applying for scholarships would be your senior year. But as I said, a lot of the big ones, their deadline's in December. So when you start your senior year, whenever that is, I would start looking at least in October and hit all the big ones by their deadline, and then just keep applying for other ones as they come up. Again, you all are going into engineering. That's a STEM major. There are a lot of opportunities for you. And also keep your grades up your senior year till the very end. You know, I've seen some students, they slack off halfway through their senior year and their grades take a nosedive. You know, people can take stuff away if you end up not doing well. So stay the course and keep doing well through your whole senior year.
Okay. Can you still apply for the FAFSA if you have an interest doing ROTC?
Yes. So Virginia, as you know, has the Corps of Cadets, and a lot of them, not all of them, have ROTC scholarships. That pays for tuition and fees. That does not pay for room and board. So you definitely want to fill out the FAFSA. Actually, at Virginia Tech, you have to fill out the FAFSA if you want any scholarships. That includes merit scholarships. So even if you think, my parents make too much money, I'm not going to be eligible for anything. Well, if you're smart, you may be eligible for a merit scholarship, and you can't get it if you don't fill out the FAFSA.
Okay. So another FAFSA related question. Do you fill in the FAFSA, when is the best time to fill it in, before being accepted or after?
So it opens in October 1st. So you probably already have a list in your head of maybe 3 colleges you want to apply to. I would fill it out in October. I would put the school codes of those 3 colleges you want to go to, and they will get it right away. Well, you know, in a couple days electronically. You want to give them a lot of time, because sometimes things come up on the FAFSA. Maybe you wrote your parents' social security number down wrong. Maybe your parents filled it out for you and they put your brother's social security number for you. Things can go wrong, and we need to fix those and contact you about it before you get your financial aid award letter. Another thing is 30% of all students are selected for something called verification. It means they verify the numbers you put on the FAFSA. And if you're selected for that by the Department of Education, we have to collect your tax returns and another form that you verify how many people are in your house. Don't send those in unless we ask for them. But if you're selected for that, that takes a couple weeks to get through. So my advice is fill out the FAFSA as early as possible and put the school codes on that you're interested in. Doesn't mean you're applying to those schools. It just means the schools will get that if you apply. And I think you can put up to 10 school codes on the FAFSA.
What is the overall payment needed to attend Virginia Tech? And I think you may have mentioned that earlier. But a question, part B to that is, does that include everything, or is it based on your major?
So for an in-state student to live on campus, the cost of attendance is $28,440. Now, there are some program fees. Engineering has a $2,000 program fee. So your cost of attendance would be, if you went this year, would be $30,440. Yeah, architecture has a program fee. There's a couple schools at Virginia Tech that do have a program fee that would raise that a little bit.
If a student has a legal guardian, can they be considered as an independent?
So in Virginia, there's not really legal guardianship. I'd say 99 times out of 100, it's custody. So if you're in a custody arrangement, they are not your parents. You still need to put your parents on there. And if you maybe haven't seen your parent in like 15 years, then we can do a dependency appeal. But you never put your guardians on there. And if you're from out of state, other states are more likely to have legal guardianship. You don't put them on there. There's a question on the FAFSA that says, are you in a legal guardianship? And you would check that yes.
Okay. Can you get scholarships while being a high school sophomore?
Only with Raise Me. So if your school is classified as low income, which has something to do with the amount of students that get the free lunch program, and I think a couple other things, go to Raise Me and sign up, and you can start getting the micro scholarships for Virginia Tech.
Okay. What is the difference between subsidized and unsubsidized loans?
Okay, good question. I know I kind of skipped over that before, but a subsidized loan is a need-based loan. So if your expected family contribution is less than the cost of attendance, which is around $28,000, you will be offered a subsidized loan. And the interest rate, again, is 2.75 this year. And while you're in school, no interest accrues. Whether it takes you 4 years or 5 years, no interest accrues. An unsubsidized loan is for students without financial need. They have the same interest rate, but from the first day, half of that loan pays out in the fall, interest starts accruing. And then when you graduate from college, you have a pile of interest, and that is added on top of the loan. It's capitalized. And then your loan is that much bigger. So if you accept any loans, I would recommend the subsidized loans.
Okay. If your parent is 100% disabled, do you still have to put them on the FAFSA? And part B to that is, if the parent is receiving SSI for disability, does that get counted within family income for financial aid?
Good question. So if your parent is 100% disabled, you still put them down as your parent on the FAFSA, but Social Security income disability is not counted on the FAFSA, so you do not put that income on there. Only taxed Social Security benefits are on there.
Okay. Do you have to fill out the FAFSA if you decide to take dual enrollment courses during the junior year?
No. In fact, you can't get any federal aid based on dual enrollment. Hopefully the community college you're dual enrolled with has something that they pay for the classes. I know some don't, but you can't get federal aid if you're dually enrolled in high school.
Okay. Is there a difference in tuition for online programs and on-campus engineering programs due to COVID or any other unforeseen future events that push towards online attendance?
Okay, so that's a good question. Things are changing. But no, there is no discount for any online classes or hybrid classes where maybe some classes are online, some you meet. But when I said tuition and fees, this fall, so every semester you have to pay fees of a little over $1,000. But if you live over 50 miles away from Virginia Tech and you take all online classes and you're full-time, they will waive $300 of the fees, but you have to apply. And that just came out like last week. So the situation is evolving. So there's something on the Virginia Tech website. It's like Virginia Tech/Ready. And that has all the announcements and the latest info about how operations are being affected by COVID-19.
Okay. Another question pertains to books. And specific to engineering, do you have a kind of a sense of the average cost of books per year than engineering programs or other programs?
Wow, this is so important, paying for books. I believe we estimate about $900 a semester for books. And when my first daughter went to college, we got pulled into it. We went to the bookstore, we got her all new books and paid a fortune. This is an area you can really save money on. You can buy used books at the bookstore. You know, some books you might want new and they're in your major and you think you're going to keep them for your career. But there are companies that rent textbooks. They just send you a textbook in a box and you mail it back in the same box at the end of the semester. So this is an area where I know you can at least cut it in half if you're smart, and sometimes you can cut it by 75%. So be wise the first time you go to college. College professors have to give you the syllabus that lists all the books at least 10 days before class starts. And this is why, so that you can shop around and get the best deal. But you don't want to wait until school starts. You definitely want to get your books so you have them ready for the first day of class.
Yeah. What exactly is the process if your parent does not pay taxes? Do they have to show a non-filer or will the application be revoked?
Yes, so if your parents don't make enough money where they have to file taxes, they just have to put their stated income on the FAFSA. That's all you have to do, unless you're selected for verification. Then if they didn't file, they have to get a letter of non-filing from the IRS. But just to fill out the FAFSA, they can just write down what they made in 2019, and they're not questioned about it. And they would just write, did not file.
Okay. We're getting near the end of our questions here. Since this student's high school is not considered low income and isn't involved in Raise Me, I know you shared some websites earlier. What would be the websites you would most recommend to apply for scholarships?
So thanks. And these have all been such great questions. You know, I've been speaking to this group for the past couple of years, and you students have the best questions. That's one reason I really like speaking to you. So I personally recommend FastWeb. After you register with FastWeb, I would search for STEM majors, engineering major scholarships. DODSTEM.US is that Department of Defense one. I mean, it's competitive, but we have a number of students here that get it. And that's what I would search through. And then third, I would go through my parents and the community to see if they're involved in anything and there's anything local that you could apply for.
Okay. And scrolling through the questions, so bear with me. I'm trying to look at questions that may have been duplicates or already answered. Your last question, is that a good way to look for merit scholarships as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So most of these scholarships outside of Virginia Tech, I would say most of them are merit-based. There's some need component. I know the Bill Gates Millennium Scholarship, there's some need-based there. And also, we have, when you go to Scholarship Central for Virginia Tech, we have something called the Presidential Scholarship Initiative. And we try to give that to 50 to 80, 90 students a year, and that's a full ride scholarship. So there are opportunities here. So you definitely want to fill out Scholarship Central before the deadline.
Yeah. Looking at kind of our last questions here, James, the question on online textbooks, I think was covered, but you know, in general, you can look at some of the places like Amazon and some of those where you do find textbooks as you would buying any other thing, then they will note whether used or new there. Again, it is very common in the bookstores, whether you buy in person or online, to look for used books first. The other thing that I will note is you can resell your books and get some money back at the end of the semester. Now, generally it's not a whole lot, but it's it's a little bit of something there. So again, that's a good word to the wise there. The question on fees here, you may be unfamiliar, but Diane, could you share a little bit about what fees are and kind of what they cover?
Sure. So there's maybe 13 different fees. Like one would be for you to use the library and the digital resources for doing your research. Another one would be you can use any bus. The Blacksburg Transit provides transportation on the campus. You can ride for free just by showing your Hokie Pass. You can even ride to Roanoke. It goes every Saturday. And then you can get into some sporting events without paying. There's intramural teams you can be on. You can go to our medical clinic. Some services are free. Some you may have to pay a little bit for. So it's just some basic things that you use all the time, that there is a cost associated to it. And so they're billed to the student body as a group to pay for all these little extras.
Okay. And wrapping up here, I believe we have our last question, but if somebody applies for financial aid and does not qualify, I know you mentioned kind of tuition payment plans. Are there any other strategies someone can use, or what are the best strategies for someone that's not going to qualify for financial aid in terms of funding their education?
So that's a good question. Your parents make too much money and you really aren't going to be eligible for any need-based aid. So a lot of students that go to Virginia Tech, their parents have already started a 529. And it's not too late for them to start it. Let's say you're a sophomore in school, they could start that. Working summers, when you sit down and have your lay your cards out on the table meeting with your parent, say, hey, this summer I expect to earn XYZ. I'm going to put so much aside for college. Or maybe you're just going to say, I know I can pay for my books and a new laptop. But you really want to look for the outside scholarships that are merit scholarships and apply to as many as you can. And high schools have certain type of scholarships. Talk to your guidance counselor about what's given out to seniors every year. Some people, their family members like to contribute. We get emails, like a grandparent will say, I want to pay so much towards so-and-so's account. So save, talk to your family members about it, and look for outside scholarships. So Perry, thank you. It's been a real pleasure being here today. I wish I could have met each one of you, and maybe I will a year or so from now. But if you have any more questions, feel free to email us at finaid@vt.edu.
Okay, thank you, Diane, and thank you to all our scholars for joining us today. And again, do reiterate, as you stay connected to the Pathways program, we're here to help you get connected. So certainly I will be happy to help you anytime, answer your questions, or get to the people who can answer. Again, by being in the Pathways program, we do offer some scholarships ourselves to some of the college transition programs, should you be accepted to Tech, and to the living learning community. So our intent is to help your path as much as possible, and that includes what we can do in Pathways, but also connecting to other resources at Virginia Tech. So thank you all again for your time and wonderful questions today. And we will see you at 2 o'clock in your last design sessions of the week. So 2 o'clock today, you all take care. Thank you.